We are coming from a country that was almost like Zimbabwe, or Idi Amin's Uganda.
President Muhammadu Buhari is fantastically fighting corruption in Nigeria.
We were living in a country in which you have one exchange rate for the rich and the connected, and the other exchange rate that is determined in Edo at Sakoba Road.
Free money is no longer available.
People have to work hard to make money. Other people only make telephone call and they become rich men. Nigeria was borrowing every day the way fish drink water. Today, it has been the burden of President Tinubu to pay back those loans.
It is to your credit that it is under your leadership that we are beginning to see men and even women of power facing corruption charges in various courts across the country. There's a lot of corruption in Nigeria. But the good news is, Mr. President, we are happy that you are fighting corruption and you are sustaining the fight, and we are sure you are going to make a difference, and you are already making a difference. That is coming from the US. The British Prime Minister had cause to say, I don't remember the occasion now, in the UK, that Nigeria is fantastically corrupt. Mr. President, you had the courage to say to the British Prime Minister, you are not here to argue about the level of corruption in Nigeria, except to say that, Mr. Prime Minister, your banks are the custodians or part of the custodians of money stolen from Nigeria. Please repatriate the money so I can take it back home. Mr. President, it takes a man of your courage, of your lifestyle, to be able to look a British Prime Minister eyeball to eyeball and say, return the stolen money. None of your predecessors can afford to say so, because if they do, they will be the worst for it. But that is not all. A man of God in the UK, the Archbishop of Canterbury, excuse my accent if I don't pronounce it well, when Cameron talks about corruption in Nigeria, he said, if Nigeria is fantastically corrupt, President Muhammadu Buhari is fantastically fighting corruption in Nigeria. And he believes under your leadership, Nigeria will be curbed of corruption. Mr. President, we will only be surprised if everybody supports you. Like you acknowledge, I believe, on the occasion of your visit to the US, when you were talking to the Nigerian community, those whose supply line have been cut off, those who were making money from fake subsidies, who were draining the Nigeria economy, their only business address is their handsets and connection. You have cut them off. You have tried to reconcile effort with reward. Free money is no longer available. And so for all those who have lived and survived on free money, they cannot be your friend. And you rightly identify them. But the Nigerian masses who have been at the receiving end of abuse of power, of manipulation and mismanagement of the economy, they are with you.
All governors now agree that under President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, there is more transparency in revenue allocation, and as a consequence, more money is accrued to the state. Because it is the development of the part that speaks to what is happening in the whole. And to our people, let me say this. In moments like this, those who don't like bad things will keep amplifying, things are tough. Things are tough. Life is not easy. XYZ. But I want to start by reminding Edo people. Before this president, Bola Ahmed, took over power, even the money you already earned, what were we told by the former president and the former CBN governor? They said our money has expired. Is that not correct? Yet we are in a country where over 40% of the local government have no banks. which means all those who kept money in their house had expired. Bola Ahmed Tinubu has renewed the validity of that money. Last week, as he saw a bottle of that water zone that we were told has expired. The other, which is important, particularly for business community and for ordinary folk, we were living in a country in which you have one exchange rate for the rich and the connected, and the other exchange rate that is determined in Edo at Sakoba Road. You go to Sakoba Road, you get they call it black market, but there was nothing black about the market because the dollar they were selling was real. But the rate was 100% more than what the central bank allocate. Under President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, that regime of one rate for some people, another rate for the masses, that has been abolished. When you have a country where people have to work hard to make money, other people only make telephone call and they become rich men, we distort the value system of even our very young people. Please, we all have a duty to educate the man on the street where we are coming from. We are coming from a country that was almost like Zimbabwe or Idi Amin's Uganda, where Idi Amin Dada asked the central bank governor, go and print money for us to share to people. And the governor said, if we print more money, Uganda currency will be like a sheet paper. And Idi Amin was reported as saying, you call the money sheet paper, we'll teach you what to do with sheet. A week later, the man had an accident and he was gone. This is what the immediate past CBN governor was doing. In the Senate, we have the records. Now that they printed over 31 trillion naira, which they call ways and means. You know, when government want to deceive the people, they use jargon. They call it ways and means, but I can tell you what it means. It means a situation in which government print back notes, not based on what we have earned or any resources, just print back notes to go and share the people to meet their money illusion. It is the result of that excessive printing of back notes that leads to the collapse of the naira. Because you print more naira and you have limited dollars. You use this small naira to change few dollars. So what happened? The price of the dollar went up and the value of the naira went down. So to understand the root cause of the present cost of living and the exchange rate regime, you must trace it and locate it in terms of the excessive amount of banknotes, two so-called ways and means, which the past government created and which this government has eliminated. We could go on and on. Nigeria was borrowing every day the way fish drink water. Today, it has been the burden of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to pay back those loans in order to guarantee the sovereignty of our nation. The economy must work for the benefit of people. But he came into government and found that many states were not able to pay their workers. He didn't just lament it, as Governor Bagudu rightly reminded us. He provided bailout, regardless of party divide. Not once, not twice, not thrice, more than that. To provide federal grant, even in the face of federal government's own limited resources, to ensure that states are able to meet one of their most basic responsibilities to workers of the states. Because when state government default in the payment of salaries, and for states that are dependent or referred to as civil service states, it is obvious that the people of those states tend to be negatively affected, because with the civil servant not being paid salaries, he cannot pay his rent. And those who rely on rent collection won't be able to, won't have any source of income. Of course, those who sell tomatoes in the market, rice or beans, they can't sell those basic food items if the civil servants in those states have not been paid. President Buhari insisted not only lamenting it, but provided support to state governments to meet that basic obligation. If some states fail to do so, it is in spite of President Buhari's effort, because these are facts no one can dispute. So if they ask you, what are you going to campaign with? Tell them that in those states where governors went into election owed 2 years' salaries, under Buhari, many of them were able to take advantage of those special grants to offset those salary arrears. But I think it's also fundamental, like I said earlier, to ask a question: which kind of great country do we want to be? Interrogating the character of that greatness. But President Buhari came in and said, we can't refer to Nigeria as the giant of Africa and lament the poverty of many people in our midst and go back to bed and sleep. And he created this social intervention fund that seeks to identify the poorest among us and have some cash transferred to them from time to time. This may not have solved the problem, but it does indicate the heart of a caring president